Hello, my name is Lisa Wink, and I'm on staff at Sun Prairie United Methodist Church. I also serve as chair of the Council of Finance and Administration for the Wisconsin Conference.
I'm Diane Vilhuber, and I serve as chair of the Joint Board of Pension, Insurance, and Equitable Compensation.
One action item that will come before the floor of the 2020 Wisconsin Annual Conference relates to approving a portion of the disaffiliation agreement for the Wisconsin Annual Conference. In February of 2019, a special session of the General Conference was called to address the United Methodist Church's stance on human sexuality. This has been a difficult conversation for the United Methodist Church for decades. During the special General Conference, a petition was adopted which added a new paragraph to the Book of Discipline, which is paragraph 2553. This paragraph provides a corridor for local United Methodist churches to leave the United Methodist Church, specifically over the topic of human sexuality. Because local churches are part of an annual conference, the disaffiliation process happens at the annual conference level. A local church can leave or disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church between now and December 31st, 2023. After the special General Conference, a preliminary draft or agreement for local churches to leave the UMC was presented to annual conferences. Each annual conference modifies their disaffiliation agreement to fit their local conference. In Wisconsin, Bishop Jung called together a special task force to complete the disaffiliation agreement for our annual conference. This task force included members from the Council of Finance and Administration, the Board of Trustees, and the Joint Board of Pensions, Insurance, and Equitable Compensation. These three entities provide oversight for the affected areas in the disaffiliation agreement. After the initial agreement was completed, the three contributing boards and councils individually approved the agreement. Then, the agreement was reviewed by the Cabinet. The disaffiliation agreement is found in its entirety in the annual conference workbook on pages 23 through 27. Because the disaffiliation agreement is addressed in paragraph 2553 from the special General Conference, the entire agreement does not require annual conference approval. We are providing the entire disaffiliation agreement so local churches have the information and required steps. If a local church decides to leave the United Methodist Church for reasons pertaining to human sexuality, the church indicates this in writing by completing the disaffiliation agreement. At least 2/3 of the professing members present at a local church conference must vote to disaffiliate. Before the disaffiliation process is complete, it must be ratified by a simple majority of members during a session of the Wisconsin Annual Conference. The disaffiliation agreement includes the following provisions that are not debatable at the 2020 Wisconsin Annual Conference. We provide them today purely as information. Local churches retain all real and personal property at no charge. Costs relating to retaining property becomes the local church's responsibility. Local churches are responsible for paying all apportionments for the 12 months preceding the disaffiliation date, as well as 12 months of apportionments after the disaffiliation date. Pastoral benefits for the 12 months immediately prior to the disaffiliation date must be paid. Unpaid obligations prior to the disaffiliation date must be paid or transferred to the new church entity. A local church will no longer be able to use the words United Methodist or the cross and flame insignia. A local church must obtain a new employer identification number, EIN, as provided by the Internal Revenue Service.
During annual conference, delegates will need to address one portion of the disaffiliation agreement, which addresses how a disaffiliating church would assume its portion of the unfunded long-term pension liability. What is an unfunded pension liability? It is the amount an annual conference needs to fulfill commitments made to clergy so they will receive the defined benefit portion of their pension payments in retirement. It is an actuarial amount provided to the Wisconsin Annual Conference by WestPath, the agency this conference partners with for clergy benefits. For many years, part of the clergy pension program included a defined benefit portion. This guarantees clergy a certain level of income for this portion of their retirement benefits. With this, there is a long-term obligation to pay out funds to participants in the future. This long-term unfunded pension liability changes based on a number of factors. Westpath works with the Joint Board of Pensions, Insurance, and Equitable Compensation to ensure that there will be adequate funds to pay out these future pension liabilities. For years, Wisconsin's unfunded pension liability has been within the acceptable range. After the 2019 Special General Conference, Westpath established new guidelines for determining future unfunded pension liability for several reasons. Some of these include increasing the unfunded liability to 110%, factoring in the potential for higher risk and the possibility of a third-party vendor. This has led to an increased valuation for unfunded pension liabilities. If a local church is leaving the United Methodist Church, why should they have an obligation towards the unfunded pension liability? It includes funds not just for current clergy, but also pension costs for clergy who previously served a local church when the church was a part of the United Methodist Church. Assigning financial obligation is necessary for clergy to continue to receive their future defined benefit portion of their pension. Each annual conference has a fiduciary responsibility to provide these funds for clergy in retirement. Not compensating the annual conference for unfunded pension liabilities would make it very difficult to ensure there would be adequate funds for future pension distributions. The action item before the Wisconsin Annual Conference delegates says that when a local church disaffiliates, it will be responsible for their portion of the unfunded pension liability at the same percentage level as the apportionment percentage calculated for the local church in the year in which the local church votes to leave the United Methodist Church. The unfunded pension amount used to make this calculation will be the amount provided by Westpath as of the first day of the previous month in which the church chooses to disaffiliate. The task force felt that this was the most equitable method of calculating a church's share of the aggregate unfunded pension obligations. What is the current unfunded pension obligation of the Wisconsin Annual Conference? Westpath provided a valuation on September 1, 2020 of $80.8 million. This valuation is considered valid for 90 days or until November 30th, 2020. Yes, this is a big number. The Joint Board has corridors of funding for a significant portion of this, but not all of the valuation. Since the Special General Conference, this number has increased significantly because of the previously shared factors. This number also underscores the importance of the annual conference to determine an equitable way to ensure clergy will receive pension benefits in the future. We hope this information provides delegates with additional information on the annual conference action item pertaining to the disaffiliation agreement. We thank you for your attention.